Kid, let's not sugarcoat it. Loneliness is one of life's hardest pills to swallow. It's a cold, empty feeling that can sneak up on you when you least expect it. People are quick to tell you that you need someone by your side, that being alone means something's wrong, that it's a sign of failure. But here's the truth. They don't get it. They don't understand that sometimes being alone isn't a curse. It's a choice, a state of mind. And you know what? There's nothing wrong with that. You're alone. Yeah, but that doesn't mean you're broken. It doesn't mean you're lost. It just means you found something within yourself that a lot of people never will. You're alone, but you're feeling alright. And that's more powerful than most people realize. I've walked that road too. I've had times in my life when I was completely alone, cut off from everyone and everything. People would look at me with pity, like I was some kind of tragic figure, like I needed saving. But what they didn't understand was that I didn't need anyone else to define who I was. I found strength in the solitude, peace in the quiet moments when it was just me and my thoughts. Sure, there were times when the loneliness felt heavy, but I learned to carry it, to turn it into something that fueled me instead of dragging me down. I realized that being alone didn't mean being lonely. It just meant I had more space to figure out who I really was. Without the noise, without the distractions. And that's a powerful thing, kid. I see, kid. I see that you're walking a path that not everyone understands. It's easy for people to judge from the outside, to assume that being alone is something to be fixed, something to be afraid of. But you and I, we know better. We know that there's a difference between being alone and being lonely. We know that sometimes the best company you can have is your own. And if that's where you're at right now, then that's okay. You don't need anyone's approval to feel alright. You don't need anyone else to validate your choices. We all walk our own paths, and if yours is one that's a little quieter, a little more solitary, that doesn't make it any less valid. In fact, it might just make it stronger. Here's the thing, kid. Solitude isn't something to be feared. It's something to be embraced, something to be celebrated. When you're alone, you get the chance to hear your own voice, to listen to your own thoughts without the constant noise of the outside world. You get to figure out what really matters to you, what you really want out of life. You get to be your own person without having to compromise or change for anyone else. That's a gift, even if it doesn't always feel like it. So don't shy away from it. Don't let anyone make you feel like being alone is something to be ashamed of. You're alright, kid. You're more than alright. You're discovering parts of yourself that most people never will. People are always going to try to tell you that you need to fit into their mold, that you need to follow their rules to be happy. They'll tell you that you need to be surrounded by friends, by family, by partners to feel complete. But that's just society's way of trying to control you, to keep you in line with their expectations. Don't buy into it. Don't let them make you feel like you're missing out on something just because you're walking a different path. You don't need to fit into their boxes. You don't need to live by their rules. You're carving out your own way, and that's something to be proud of. You're not incomplete just because you're alone. You're whole, just as you are. Here's the truth, kid. You're not the only one who feels this way. There's a whole world of people out there who found peace in their solitude, who've learned that being alone doesn't mean being lonely. We've all got our own struggles, our own stories. But in that, we find connection. We find understanding. We might be walking different paths, but we're all heading in the same direction. Towards a better understanding of who we are, of what we want, of what really matters. You're not alone in this experience, even if it feels that way sometimes. There's a whole community of people who've learned to thrive in their solitude, who've found strength in their independence. And that's something to hold on to, something to be proud of. I knew someone once who couldn't stand being alone. He was always surrounded by people, always chasing after the next social event, the next relationship, the next distraction. He thought that if he was alone, it meant he was failing, that he wasn't good enough. But in his rush to avoid solitude, he lost himself. He never took the time to figure out who he really was, what he really wanted out of life. And in the end, he was more lost, more lonely than he ever would have been if he'd just taken a moment to be by himself. I tell you this because I don't want you to make the same mistake. Don't be afraid to be alone, kid. Don't be afraid to sit with yourself, to really dig deep and figure out who you are. It's the most important work you'll ever do. You're walking the path of the independent kid. It's not always an easy road, but it's one that leads to a deeper understanding, to a stronger sense of self. Being alone gives you the freedom to explore who you are, to follow your own path without having to answer to anyone else. It gives you the chance to build your life on your own terms, to create something that's truly yours. This path isn't for everyone, but it's for you. It's for those of us who've learned that we don't need to be surrounded by others to feel complete. We find our strength, our purpose within ourselves. And that's something that no one can take away from you. Don't ever doubt your strength, kid. It takes a special kind of resilience to be comfortable in your own company. To stand strong on your own 2 feet without needing anyone else to prop you up. You've got a quiet strength, a deep well of resilience that most people will never understand. And that's okay. You're not living for their approval. You're living for yourself, for your own peace, your own happiness. You've learned to be your own anchor, your own source of comfort, and that's something to be proud of. You're alright, kid. You're more than alright. You're strong, you're resilient, and you're exactly where you need to be. So here's what I want you to do, kid. Embrace your solitude. Lean into it. Don't let anyone make you feel like you're less just because you're walking your own path. You're alright, and you're going to be more than alright. Take this time to really dig deep, to explore who you are, what you want and what you're capable of. Build your life on your own terms. Create your own happiness. And let the world see that you don't need anyone else to validate your existence. You're strong enough, brave enough, and wise enough to walk this path alone. And you're going to come out the other side stronger for it. In the end, being alone isn't about isolation. It's about empowerment. It's about finding peace within yourself. About learning to be your own best friend, your own source of strength. You're walking a path that's uniquely yours, and that's something to be proud of. You're alright, kid. You're doing just fine. You're learning, growing, and becoming the person you were always meant to be. So don't let anyone tell you that you need to change, that you need to be something you're not. Keep walking your path. Keep embracing your solitude, and keep feeling alright. You've got this, kid. You're more than enough, just as you are.